encourage everyone to take up this process of chanting of Hare Krishna, which is actually the Yuga Dharma. So if you are not doing it on a regular basis, we request you just 10 minutes every day, in the morning especially, take 10 minutes and 108 times chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This is the best, the highest benediction in this age of Kali Yuga is this opportunity to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And that's why it is said this is Maha Mantra. Of all mantras, this is actually said to be the best mantra. And this is actually declared in a conversation between Brahma and Narada, where Brahma actually himself says that these 16 names, and he says the entire mantra, said this will give the highest blessings in this age of Kali Yuga. So let's loudly chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. We'll do it at least 5 times. So the mantra is here on both sides. So let's loudly chant. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Shri Radha Golokananda ki jai. And as I announced, after the talk, we'll have wonderful prasadam downstairs. And today's special prasadam, there's pizza prasadam for everyone. So please stay to honor the wonderful prasadam after the talk. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you very much, Narayan Prabhu. And we had a wonderful program yesterday, almost in Winston-Salem, very far away. So the question was raised, why did we pick Hillsborough? I think we should answer that question first. Well, because there's nice people in Winston-Salem, there's nice people in Greensboro, there's nice people in Chapel Hill, there's nice people in Raleigh, there's nice people in Cary, there's nice people in Morrisville, there's nice people in Apex. Did I leave anywhere out? Colfax, okay, Colfax. But that's still Winston-Salem, as far as I'm concerned. So what we did is we took a compass, but some of you may not know what a compass is. It's a drawing tool. You know what that is? No, you don't know what it is. It's a drawing tool you used to use before you had computers, where you could draw circles. So we drew circles around all the major population areas in this part of North Carolina. And where they all intersected, that's where we are. So we're able to serve a large population area, and also we're able to have a very peaceful place. You know, the option was, well, open a center in Cary or something like that, which is basically where a lot of our members are, in Cary, Morrisville, like that. But then there's so many other temples there, and they're all crowded in the city, and there's bricks and mortar and concrete. Somehow or other, I don't like concrete too much. I mean, we use it for the building, but I don't like to live in concrete. So we decided to come here. And when we first came here, a little bit of the history. When I first came here in 1982, we basically came here without any resources other than a car. And we camped out at a friend's house close to Durham. And what happened is that I decided we could open a center here because I did the thing with the compass. And so I found this piece of property, a nice river on it and everything like that. And, you know, we didn't have any resources, no money or anything. So what do? You have no money. You pray to Krishna. Krishna. So the money rained down from heaven. No. Whoops. That's all right. Okay, it's all right now. So money rained down from heaven. No. So we used some of the training I had before to get this property without money. I'm not going to tell you how we did it, but we did it. No, we got the owner to chant Hare Krishna, and while he was chanting Hare Krishna in ecstasy, he signed over. No. I wish it was like that. What happened was that I was able to get the owner to take back a mortgage, to do the financing on it. And we purchased this property. At that time, the property was only costing $34,000 steel, 16 acres. And so we were able to pay that off gradually with the help of some of my friends. And then in 1983, I went to some of my friends in Greensboro, the motel owners there, and I said, I want to build a temple. And this was the first temple in North Carolina, believe me. First temple in this part of North Carolina. There was nothing in Greensboro, nothing in Raleigh, Winston-Salem, or anywhere, basically. And so, I designed a temple because I have some architectural engineering background, so I designed the temple and did all that stuff, made a scale model. And they said, sure, we'll pay for it. I said, thank you. And so we proceeded to build the temple. A lot of it was built. This temple here was was built with my own hands, because I only had 2 other people with me at that time. And then that's how the temple came about. And it's grown since then, and we have plans for further expansions too, because we're actually full, usually on Sunday. And as you see, when it comes time for prasadam, then people come. They basically don't want to be lectured to, so I'm not going to. But usually my lectures are not lectures. I usually like to intersperse it with a lot of stories. And today we're going to tell a story as part of the philosophical explanation, because stories are always nice. And this story has romance in it. Pretty good, isn't it? Has violence in it. What else is interesting to people? Violence, romance, suspicion, drama. Okay, so I'm going to tell a story from the Vedic literatures that illustrate all these points. And first we're going to chant Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopinana Malaba Giri Badada Gote Gopinana Balaba Giri Badada Gote Yasodhanandana Brajajana Randana Yasodhanandana Brajajana Randana Jamuna Tera Manachare Yamuna Tera Vanachade Jayo Radha Madhava Kunya Vihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihare Gopidana Malaba Givadadate Gopijana Vallabha Giribado Dahure. Yasunanandana Brajana Randana. Yasunanandana Brajana Randana. Jamuna Tera Manachare. Yamuna Tera Manachare. Jairan Madhuva Kunabihati. Jayaradho Madhava Kunabihate. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya All Subteta Satashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Abhaya Charananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidweda Gadadha Shivasri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturadam Ki Jai Jagadata Sami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari 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 Bol. All glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri, Guru, and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamati Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivrashesha Shunyavadi Paschatchadejatarni Om Maganat Chimadanta Shagananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So, let's start with today's story. This is a story from the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. And this story, part of the story, tells us why India is called Bhartavarsha, or the land of Bart. The name India is more modern name, but it's actually Bharata. Bharata is the proper designation. So it's part of the story, but there's a lot more in the story and several lessons we can learn from the story. So without further ado, the story starts with Vasishtha Muni. Vasishtha Muni is one of the Sapta Rishis, the great sages. And Vasishtha Muni has his hermitage, and he has in his hermitage something that helps him with his sacrifices, and that's a kama denu. For those of you who don't know what a kama denu means, a cow that can give anything. Wow. Not just milk, not just yogurt, not just ice cream and shrikant and everything like that, but even give you gold, a new car, anything you want can come from a kama denu. You don't have to apply for a loan to get a car. You just go to your kama denu. So he had this kama denu, but he wasn't interested. He was a Brahmin. So what's a Brahmin? A Brahmin is one who voluntarily lives without any greed. Whatever Krishna sends, fine. Krishna doesn't send it, fine. Like Sudama Brahmin. You all know that story, Sudama Brahmin? He was very happy. He didn't even ask Krishna for anything. He didn't go to Krishna and say, Krishna, you're my buddy. Give me a nice house. Give me a car. He didn't say any of these things to Krishna. He just said, Krishna, I love you, basically. And he gave Krishna a little rice that wasn't worth anything. And then he got everything. But that's what a Brahmin is, satisfied. He's satisfied. Samadamak dapaksho cham shantir arjunam evidya. And then you have Kshatriyas who are not satisfied because they're in the mode of passion. Passion means I want more and more and more. He is my enemy. I have conquered him. Greed. Greed. Greed is, there's one famous American who said, greed is good, right? But Brahmins don't think like that. They think greed is a pain. Better not to be full of greed. So, what happens is that there was a Kshatriya. His name was Visvamitra. And he was touring. And as he was touring, he came upon the ashram of Visvamitra Muni. Okay. And he respects the Brahmins. That's the nature of a Kshatriya. And he goes to Visvamitra Muni's ashram. He leaves his weapons outside and says, please accept my obeisances. And Visvamitra Muni says to him, hey, stay for dinner. And stay for dinner with all your soldiers. Now, they're like 10,000, 100,000 soldiers, Akshahini or something like that. That's a lot of soldiers. I mean, how's a poor Brahmin going to feed them? So, Vishishta says, don't worry. You can have anything you want for dinner. Better than the Sunday feast here. You just have to take whatever we give you, So whatever you want, so that men all sat down in rows, and each one thought of their favorite preparation. One person thought of pakoras, the other one thought of pizzas, or whatever they thought of. And they all thought of their favorite bread, and they all got it from this desire cow. Amazing. And then after that, they got entertained because they thought, we'd like to see some dancing girls after. And so out of this desire, Kamadhenu, came all the dancing girls. And they entertained. And then Visvamitra, naturally not being satisfied with what Krishna had sent, he's thinking, this cow should belong to the king. It shouldn't belong to some poor Brahmin. So he says, let's make a deal. You can have 1,000 regular cows, 1,400 elephants, 800 chariots with gold and horses, and 11,000 other horses, and eventually comes millions of cows you can have. I just want this one cow. And so then Vasishta says, no, can't have her. And so Visvamitra says, all right, I'm a Kshatriya, you're a Brahmin, you're weak. Generally you think Brahmins are weak. They don't have what they call six-pack abs. So they don't have any of those things. Generally, just like there was one time a devotee was painting a picture of the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, and the devotee painted the picture of the six Goswamis of Vrindavan like someone who was big muscles and everything like that. Prabhupada said, that's not appropriate. Six Goswamis of Vrindavan were undergoing austerities. Of course, they exercised, they walked around Govardhan Hill at least a few times a day. So, therefore, Visvamitra thought, let me take it. I'm going to take the cow by force. So he takes the cow by force, and the cow cries, why are you letting me be taken away? And Vasishta says, there's really nothing I can do. He's just a strong Kshatriya. Do you want me to stay, or do you want me to leave? It's up to you. And so Vasishta says, actually, I'd like for you to stay. Oh, the cow says, thank you for that command. And the cow produces hundreds of these warriors from its udder, and hundreds of soldiers and everything like that, and they're attacking Visvamitra's soldiers. And then Even Visvamitra fires a missile because he has these celestial weapons. And then hundreds of more soldiers come, and the sons of Visvamitra rush at Vashishta. And Vashishta, at that point, doesn't use the cow. He just goes, Om. And then the sons of Visvamitra get cremated instantaneously. I mean, this is what greed, actually, we learn a lesson about greed. What you're not supposed to have, if you try to have it, you'll just actually go crazy. What Krishna is not going to allow you to have. Everyone has a quota, right? Ishavashamidam sarvam yatkancha chakachakat tenajaktena bunjada margathakashas vidanam. Krishna is the supreme controller. Ishavashamidam sarvam yatkancha. And he gives everybody a quota. You know, some people have a quota of a fancy house. Some people have a quota of a hut in the woods. And the interesting thing, you find that people who accept what they have, they tend to be happier. And people think they need more and more and more and more. They tend to be agitated. So, anyway, the sons of Visvamitra get killed, and Visvamitra thinks, no, now I got to become powerful, more powerful than this ridiculous Brahmin. So he starts to perform austerities. And to please Lord Shiva, he goes to the Himalayas, and he gets all the weapons of the gods and the Danavas and the Daityas, all these celestial weapons. And then he goes to attack Visvamitra. By this time, it's not just the desire cow he's interested in. He wants vengeance. You know, this guy got in my way. You know, this is also mode of passion mixed with ignorance, too. That gets us in trouble sometimes. So he goes to attack, and all of Vashishta Muni's disciples, they just run away. You know, everything's being burnt. And Vashishta Muni, he takes up his staff, and he's able to absorb all these different weapons, and even is able to absorb the Brahmastra weapon. Brahmastra is the ultimate weapon of destruction. It's like something like the atomic bomb, but it can be focused just on one person or one atom. Just like the story of Ashwatam. He fired the Brahmastra weapon at the in the womb of to the womb of Uttara, in trying to kill Parikshit, and Krishna had to protect. So therefore, this Visvamitra gets really frustrated at this particular point. And he says, I got to do something about this. So he goes to the southern area of India, which was not Bharatvarsh at that time, and he becomes a raw food addict, a vegan. And that's it, you know, just austerity, just eating raw food. And he goes to Pushkara, the place of Lord Brahma, performs austerities. And eventually, Lord Brahma blesses him. You are now a Rajarshi. It means still a king, but the sage amongst the kings. So Visvamitra thinks, this is not going to make it. I got to conquer over a Brahma Rishis, a Brahmarshi, who's like Vashishta Muni, he's on the highest level. Rajarshi is just a king, but he's a sage at the same time. Still a king, so he wants more. So then he begins to perform more austerities because he wants vengeance and he wants to conquer over Vashishta Muni. So as he's performing austerities, something else interesting happens. There's this one king in the dynasty, actually it's in the same dynasty that Lord Ramchandra appeared in. His name is Trishanku. And Trishanku has this really interesting idea. He wants to go to heaven, but he doesn't want to change his body. You know, in heaven, they don't have bodies made of bile, mucus, and air, tridaduke. They have bodies that are far more subtle. People don't get old. People don't get sick. Basically, it's kind of nice there. The mangoes are as big as this building without any skin or pit. It's always mango season. And you don't have to go to Walmart to get something. Everybody's beautiful. You know, it's a great place. But he wants to go there in his flesh body. Doesn't work. So basically he goes to Vashishta first, not to Visvamitra. And Vashishta says, no, that's a ridiculous idea. He goes to Vashishta's sons, and Vashishta's sons say, yeah, did you ask anyone first? And he says, yes, I asked your father, but he didn't want to do it. And so Vashishta's sons, they curse him. Oh, not only are you not going to heaven in your body, you're going to look like a Chandala, like a Neanderthal or like a monkey or something like that. So all of a sudden, all of his ornaments, the golden ornaments, they just turn to like really bad, like iron or something like that. They turn black, and he looks as ugly as anything. Poor guy. So then he decides, let me go to Visvamitra. You know, he's cool, he's better. So he goes to Visvamitra, and Visvamitra says, yeah, I'm going to show I'm more powerful than Vasishtha Muni, so I'm going to perform this sacrifice. And he invites everybody, including Vasishtha Muni and Vasishtha Muni's sons, to the sacrifice. And Vasishtha Muni's sons say, we're not going, you know, our father is not in favor of this. And so Visvamitra curses, imagine all this fighting just to get even. Isn't it? We learn something from this. So Visvamitra curses the sons of Vasishtha to die. And Vasishtha Muni, he gets so depressed that his sons are killed, he decides to commit suicide. So he tries different ways. He jumps off a cliff, but then the stones are like pillows when he lands. Can't commit suicide. Don't try this. Because the stones will not turn to pillows. And then he thinks, let me drown myself. So he tries, and then he just floats down the river. You know, he can't even go into the river. And so he remains alive. Meantime, Visvamitra is performing his sacrifice, and, you know, swaha, 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 like we had a sacrifice yesterday. Not for this purpose. That was for good sacrifice to install Sri Sri Gauranatai. So he starts performing this sacrifice, and nothing happens. Okay, swaha, where's these stupid demigods? Swaha, swaha. You know, still angry quite a bit. And so the demigods don't come. And so he thinks, well, even if they don't come, I'm going to send him back on my own power. So using his mystic powers that he's acquired because of austerities, he says, go to heaven, Trishanku. And Trishanku starts to go up in the air. And he gets pretty close to heaven. And Indra sees this, you know, ugly person coming with a material gross body. Indra says, get out of here. Go back. Okay, so he goes back, starts going, and on the way back, Visvamitra doesn't like the idea, says, no, go back. And so he's like the original yo-yo. You know yo-yo? We used to play with the yo-yo when I was young. And so he's going, and finally, you know, all right, let's do a mediation here. He does a mediation with the demigods, and he actually creates another heaven for Trishanku to live in. And so Trishanku's happy, and he's floating there in his own heaven. But in the meantime, every time Visvamitra Muni does something like this, he sort of loses the fruit of his austerities. This is an important point. When you engage in mundane austerities, and you get a fruit for them, it's like karma kanja activities, but then once you get the fruit, ain't no more fruit after that. Like if you have a tree, you pick all the fruit, right? It's gone. But the difference is with Krishna consciousness that there is no loss or diminution. In other words, whatever you acquire in spiritual life you get to keep. You give away a lot, and you get to keep. This is also an advertisement for Ditchin Narayan. Where's he? Okay, he'll hear this. That when you distribute, he pays me for this. So when you distribute Krishna consciousness, give it to others, you don't lose it. Or like sometimes you find some Mayavadi sannyasi who touches a disciple, I've given you all my spiritual potency, and now I have nothing left. Crazy. Because spiritual means unlimited, ananta. So anyway, okay, getting back to the point. Visvamitra is exhausted all of his austerities at that point. And so then he goes, still determined, he goes back to Pushkara, eats his raw vegan diet. And as he's getting more and more power and power and power, he's sitting under a tree meditating, Ramaya, Brahma, Namaha, Brahma, Namaha. Then there's a bird in the tree, and the bird does what birds do. Anyway, I think you understand. Plop right on his head. So, what does he do? He gets angry. Stupid bird. I mean, the birds aren't, they are stupid. But you can't blame the bird for that. Just like devotee got bit by a wasp today. That's what wasps do, you know. They're not after you in particular. Although you may think like that. If you make friends with them, they won't bother you. So, it's like I have friendly skunks who live at my house. They don't bother me. I was coming from Mangalarti this morning. A whole group of them was accompanying me to the temple. So he burns the bird to ashes, boom, with his glance. Then he loses all of his austerity again. Then there's that whole story of Harish Chandra, which I'm not going to get into right now, and he uses up more austerity. And then there's a physical fight between him and Visvamitra Muni, between Visvamitra and Vasishtha Muni, and that lasts for a long time. They curse each other, they become birds and ducks, and they fight for many years. Oh my God, this is an epic. Then, another thing happens is that there's a devotee who needs, at that time there was a human sacrifice, somehow or they had it. And so Visvamitra asked one of his sons out of compassion to substitute for this personality, and his sons refuse, and they all get cursed. He curses his own sons. It shows another thing. When you're very lusty or want something, you get angry. Jayato vishak pumsam sangos teshu bhajayate sangat sanjayate kama krota vijayate. When you contemplate something, you really want it, and you don't get it, or even if you do get it, you get angry. Kama krota vijayate, as the Bhagavad Gita says. So he curses all of his sons, and then he gives shelter to this person who was supposed to be sacrificed. He teaches the person the Vishnu mantra, and he gets saved. That person gets saved. Okay, then he's lost all of his austerity again. This is not the end of the story yet. He's really determined. Person in the mode of passion is very determined. In the mode of goodness, someone is very determined too, but for a different purpose. And the mode of ignorance, there's no determination. People are procrastinating. They like to sleep all day long. We know a lot of people like that. Putting off for tomorrow what they can do today. So, then he performs more austerities, and after 1,000 years, he gets blessed with the title of Rishi. It means a sage. But still, that's not anywhere equal to Vasishtha Muni. Right? Not anywhere equal, and he just gets really frustrated. Okay, so then he begins more and more austerity. But when you perform a lot of austerity in a material way, the demigods start to think you want to go and join them. You want to be a demigod. You want to take over the post of Indra. So Indra has all these tests he sends. And usually is a lady. And the ladies are usually apsaras, the dancing girls of the heavenly planet. So what he does, he calls for Menaka. And he says to Menaka, hey, I have a job for you. And she says, what's the job? And he says, I want you to cause this sage Visvamitra to fall down. And she said, I don't want to do it. He's so powerful he could destroy the heavenly planets. No way. And Indra says, okay, I will send with you the wind god, nice spring winds, the wind god, and Cupid with his 5 arrows, form, taste, smell, touch, etc., like that. No problem. She finally agrees. Okay, I'll go. And then what happens is that she comes down and the wind sort of like blows her clothes away. And she's acting real bashful like that. And he becomes so attracted that he says, oh, let's get married. It's called a Gandharva marriage, or just marriage by agreement. So for 10 years, here's the side story about Bharatavarsha. So for 10 years, they're together. And then she gives birth to a beautiful little girl who later on was called Shakuntala. But she's not interested, not a very attentive mother, as I would say. She just drops the girl off in the forest. She gives birth actually in the Himalayas. And the bird, the child, the girl, not the bird. The child is protected by vultures. And that's why she's called Shakuntala. Famous Shakuntala story. All right, so Shakuntala is there, and then she's discovered by this rishi, Kanva Muni. Kanva Muni, is everyone following the story so far? I'm trying to go. That's a lot of details to remember. So Kanva Muni, he's single, he's a brahmachari, but he takes care of her as his daughter. So he's taking care of her. One day he goes off to bathe in the river or something like that. And when he goes off to bathe in the river, this king, Dushmanta, comes riding along. He's hunting or doing something in the forest. And he enters into the sage's ashram thinking he's going to get something to eat. And he says, where's Kanva Muni? And she says, he's not here, but I'm his daughter. And he's thinking, how can Kanva Muni have a daughter? He's a brahmachari. And he looks at her, and he falls in love. He falls in love, and he says, let's get married. She says, no, what about my father? Don't worry. This is perfectly religious, Gandharva marriage. So they get married on the spot, and she says, I want my son to be the next king. And he says, no problem, I'll call for you when it's time. So he goes back to his kingdom. Kanva Muni comes, and she's pretty embarrassed. He knows what's happened, because he's a great sage. So he says, this is proper, it's religious, Krishna has a plan here. Okay. So the little boy is born, and his name is Bart. And he grows so strong. He's there in the forest, and, very strong, heroic, and everything like that. And Kanva Muni says, all right, it's time to go join your husband. But what has happened in the meantime is that Durvasa Muni actually cursed her. I don't know if you know this part of the story. It's really interesting. This is really an interesting part of the story. Durvasa Muni had cursed her that her husband would forget her. And the reason he cursed her is that she was so much in love. Here's another story about being in love. She was so much in love that she didn't notice when he came to the ashram. She was just like, Dushmanta, 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 my beloved, when are you going to call for me? And so she's in a trance, yogic trance. And so Durvasa Muni curses her, your husband's going to forget you. Okay. And then she says, oh, it wasn't my fault. And he says, all right, but later on he'll remember you. There's actually two versions of the story. One version is the ring story. And another, anyway, I guess I should tell both versions if we have time. So what happens is that she goes to the king, and also she's got, all right, I'll tell the ring story. She's gotten a ring from the king to prove that she's married to the king. And so what happens is while she's crossing the river ring falls off and some fish swallows it. So she gets to the king, and she says, I'm your wife, and here's your kid. And he says, what, lady? I don't remember you, because there's been a curse by Visvamitra Muni. So I don't remember you. And she starts crying, and there's even some voices from the heavenly planet that say, he's your kid. He doesn't accept. Somehow or other, he doesn't accept. And later on, a fisherman catches a fish, and he brings the fish to the king, and the fish is opened up, and they find the ring. And she goes back, and the king recognizes her. Also, there's another version of the story where the king says that actually I refuse to accept you because people wouldn't think it actually happened like that you weren't a bona fide wife. So I was waiting for more voices from the heavenly planets to come. All right. So that's the story of Bart, who Bart Varsha is named after. It's King Bart. He was very strong, raised in the forest. So getting back to our friend Visvamitra Muni, he's lost all his austerities because he was cohabitating with Menaka for 10 years. Okay, so he starts again. Again, determination. I wish I was so determined to be Krishna conscious. That would be nice. Spiritual life. Dhritavrata. That's mentioned. Vyavasayatmaka bodhi rekeha kurunandana. One point of determination. So then he goes to meditate by the Kaushika River. Kaushika is named after his sister, actually. And after thousands of years, he's named a Maharishi, still not a Brahma Rishi. He's named a great Rishi. And so he thinks, I got to execute more austerity. So then for 1,000 years, he executes austerity without breathing. And then Indra sends down another girl, Ramba. And at this point, he's learned the tricks. But he still hasn't conquered his anger. So what he does, he curses her to become a stone for 1,000 years. So this poor innocent girl, she becomes a stone for 1,000 years. Actually, she's married to Nalakuvara in the heavenly planets. You may not know this. That's a side story from the Ramayana. She's married to Nalakuvara, and more of the side story. She was the one who was attacked by Ravan, and when Ravan attacked her, Nalakuvara cursed Ravan that if he ever attacked a girl again against her will, he would die. So that's where that curse against Ravan came from. That's from the Ramayana, not the Mahabharata. It's a little side story. So then he loses all of his austerity because he cursed her to become a stone. Anger, anger, anger. Lust, anger, and greed are the three gateways leading to hell, basically. Lust, anger, greed. These three he's succumbing to again and again and again and again. So then 1,000 more years he performs austerity. And Indra comes. He's getting ready to break his austerity after 1,000 years. And he's getting ready to take some prasad. People get hungry, but after 1,000 years, you're really hungry. So after 1,000 years, he thinks, now it's time to eat. And so that Indra comes in the guise of a Brahmin, and some of the other demigods too, and say, we want some food. And they take away all this food. And he remains peaceful. Then they bless him. You should become a Brahma Rishi. And then he makes friends with Vishishta Muni. Now they're good buddies at this particular point. So what is the moral of the story? Yes, why did I tell the story? Well, it's a fun story. I love the story. But that's one reason. But the moral of the story is that, yes, one should learn how to conquer lust, anger, and greed. But the methodology he utilized for conquering lust, anger, and greed is a long, drawn-out process that most likely you'll fail with. Because you can't conquer lust, anger, and greed. You can actually conquer lust, anger, and greed if you have a higher purpose or a higher goal. Of course, his goal, you may say higher, but it wasn't so inspiring. He was pursuing his higher goal for the purpose of lust, anger, and greed. Did you understand that? That was his purpose. His motivation was power, prestige, vengeance, lower modes of nature. So if we have the purpose of spiritual life, a loving relationship with Krishna, then Krishna dwelling in our hearts, especially when we chant the holy names, Cheto Darpanam Arjanam Bhava Mahad Bhagni Nirapanam Shreya Karava Chandrakar Vitharanam Vijavaru Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Pranamrita Svadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtan. So Krishna dwelling in our hearts will actually another verse from the Bhagavatam, Ridiyadsto Yabadrani Vidunoti Saritsatam, will actually purify us of those things and protect us from all these different problems in spiritual life. And then we can be happy. Because everyone wants to be happy, but happiness is achieved by a loving relationship. Love is a very powerful force. Greed is powerful, but love is more powerful. Lust is powerful, but love is much more powerful. Anger is powerful, but love is much more powerful. And so that's what Bhakti Yoga is. It's not simply a system of rituals and austerities. You know, sometimes people look and they think, oh, you people perform so many austerities, like Prabhupada said jokingly one time. We have so many do-nots, and he called them donuts, in spiritual life. Do not do this, no meat, fish, or eggs. No, actually, it's easy stuff. No intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling, no meat eating. And chanting, that's a do instead of a donut. So we have so many, but if we do these activities out of love, and who is the most lovable? Krishna and Krishna's devotees, then everything, the whole path is easy. Then you can be like Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was not only tested by a beautiful girl, but the beautiful girl was the material energy personified. Now, that's a lot more beautiful than Menaka and Ramba. Now you may think, Menaka and Ramba? Well, one of them came before you guys. You would drop your wife like a hot potato. Or if Indra appeared before any of you ladies, your husband, who's he? So you take the material energy, everything beautiful in the material world, combined to one, and she came before this great devotee Haridas Thakur, and he's chanting, and he simply says, wait till I finish my rounds. Visvamitra did not say that to Menaka. Wait till I finish my austerities. But because that's out of love, you get a higher taste. Rasa varjam rasa yasa parandrashta nivartate. So this is a big lesson we can learn from this. That if you really want to be happy, that's the way to be happy, because we have the loving propensity. The reason we're not happy is not because we're missing anything, is because we haven't focused our loving propensity towards the right person or persons. Okay, that happy note, that's the end of the story. So anybody have any questions or comments? Yeah. Yeah. To fully develop it, it takes time, but Krishna is very attractive. And Krishna's devotee. I was just thinking about that in regard to Srila Prabhupada, how Srila Prabhupada is so attractive. And, such a attractive person who's not only lovable, but he is so loving. So, to have a loving focus or relationship, it's a two-way street. Like Krishna, what does it say? Bhaktaram jakatapsam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatwamam shanti richati. Krishna is our surit. There's different names. Surit means friends, but it's not an ordinary friend. It's not like mitra or bandhu. These are the other two words used in Sanskrit, right? Mitra and bandhu. Bandhu is like a casual friend. Mitra is a friend you go and play golf with. Right? But surit, the word basically means good heart. Good heart. But it means someone who has your interests at heart. And so Krishna is situated in our heart, has our best interests in heart, and it's not simply a one-way street to love Krishna, because Krishna loves you back. And he actually loves you back unlimitedly. You may love him in the beginning a little, limitedly, and he loves you back unlimitedly. Prabhupada would often say you take one step towards Krishna, and Krishna takes like 10 or 100 steps towards you. So you can feel this reciprocation in the beginning. I mean, that's what convinced me. It's not something that's empirical. People often ask, why do you have faith in Krishna? Can you show me some scientific instrument that'll show Krishna's existence or the soul's existence or anything like that? No. Krishna is non-empirical. But Krishna is understood through consciousness. And so when one engages in Krishna consciousness, in the process of Krishna consciousness, you feel that loving reciprocation. And so naturally, you lose your lust, anger, and greed. And whatever you're doing, it's not that you have to take sannyas or anything like that, but you're really loving towards everybody because you see everybody connected to Krishna. You develop this mood, like Lord Chaitanya, we were talking about yesterday. Lord Chaitanya's message is Jiva Doy, one of his messages. Jiva Doy and Namaruchi Vaishnava Seva. So you develop this, warmth of heart that's really the most pleasing thing in this world. And you get that a little glimmer in the beginning. A little glimmer, and and that increases your faith. You chant more, you execute Krishna consciousness more, and then your faith increases more. It's back and forth, back and forth. And so, of course, Krishna does say in the Gita, people come to him in the beginning for other purposes. He says, Chaturvidha Bhajanti Mam. People come, they're looking for wealth, that happens. That's a natural thing. Like there's that interesting story about the man who was very greedy, and he heard that there was a young boy in Vrindavan who was very rich, and he came to rob him. And when he came to rob him, he actually fell in love. I mean, I can tell this whole story, but he fell in love with him. So people come for other reasons, but once you come in contact with Krishna, even in the beginning, there's immediate relief from distress, isn't it? According to Srila Rupa Goswami. And there's a little taste of happiness. And that's one thing I realized. That Prabhupada says in the beginning of the Krishna book that we all have this loving propensity. We want to expand it unlimitedly. And so that's bhakti. This is not just yoga, hatha yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga. This is bhakti yoga. In other words, yes, we have all these activities like chanting, but you do them from the heart. Because that's where the consciousness is. And then automatically, rasa varjam, rasya prasad, parandrasani vartate. And then other things, then you become equal poised. Happiness and distress. Krishna gives that message at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. Sitoshna sukha dukkata payano nitashtam satiksha shabarata. He says basically you should be equal poised, but he doesn't give the reason at the beginning. He tells that to Arjuna, and Arjuna, in the 6th chapter, he says, what all these instructions you're giving me are impossible. Chanchala hi manaha Krishna pramati balavadradam. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. So anyway, so you have all this there, but my experience and the experience of those who have progressed in devotional service is that when you do things from the heart, like, what is that? Anyabi lashata shunyam gyana karma navartamanaku yena krishnanda shilanam bhakti utabab. When you do something to please Krishna, as an offering to Krishna, yat karosi yatashnasi yajahoshi dadasi yat yatapashashi kantiya tat kodutwa madarpanam. Not simply the ritual. Because if you simply do the ritual without the right concept, that's called niyamagraha. Then it's better than nothing, but it's not going to get you there. But you give your heart to Krishna. When you're chanting, you give your heart to Krishna. And then all these things like lust, anger, and greed, they go away, and you become a better person in all ways. You become a better mother, father, husband, wife, sannyasi, whatever you are. You become a better at it. You don't change your external circumstance, but you become better, purer, compassionate with others. Okay, yeah. Yes. Yes. I hope I live a little longer. Yeah. Okay. That's actually a good question. One we mentioned yesterday is that there's 2 verses in the Bhagavad Gita that are a little discouraging. One is Bhonamante, Bhona and Janmanante Gyanavamam Prabhajante, after many, many births and deaths. I could answer that way, but that's sort of discouraging. And another one is Manushanam Sahasreshu Kaschit Yatati Siddhaye. Out of many, many thousands who are looking for perfection, perhaps one knows Krishna. So the point is Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya, because we only live, well, hopefully I live more than 60 or 70, or else I'd be gone by now. So, I'm 74, so. So, hopefully get a little longer. So the point is that Lord Chaitanya has given us this process understanding our short lives. When we're talking about Visvamitra Muni and Vasishtha Muni, long lives. These people have very long lives. They have a lot of time to make mistakes. But Lord Chaitanya has given us this process, which Prabhupada has stated that if we continue simply chanting, giving our heart to Krishna, we can become perfect in this lifetime. So it's an easy process for us. Everything's adjusted down. It's like, what's it called in golf? You get a handicap or something like that. You don't play golf very well, so I don't know golf, so don't criticize me for not knowing golf. But you get an adjustment because you're not a good golf player, right? Anybody here play golf? Am I right? Okay, Tota? Okay, you get an adjustment. So Krishna understands that we're not good. Kaliyo manda samanda matayo manda bhagyo upadrata, was the Bhagavatam says. So Lord Chaitanya has really given us the, kindergarten. What is it? Spiritual life for dummies in Kali Yuga. They have all these books, something for dummies, something, computers for dummies, Excel for dummies. So so in Kali Yuga, it's like that. I mean, we don't have much determination. Amanda, we're short-lived, and it's a very easy process. Yuga Dharma, isn't it? Krishna Varnam Twisa Krishnam Sango Pangasraparshanam Yagyahi Sankirtana Prayar Yajantihi Sumedasa. So if someone has good brain, Sumedasa, then they will take up this kirtan and the chanting. And you get special mercy, actually even a shorter shortcut, special mercy when you distribute Krishna consciousness, right? When you give out books. I've seen these devotees who distribute Krishna consciousness either, you know, by making devotees, giving out spiritual literatures, their Krishna consciousness gets more accelerated. You know, they go 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. But in any case, by chanting and doing things out of love, you know, love is the point. People look about loving God. So we've given this information, or not we, but Krishna has given us this information about his nature, what he looks like. I mean, if you look at the deities, Radhagolokananda, I mean, they're pretty lovable. I'm very, not pretty, lovable. You know, just thinking, wow, Krishna's revealing himself. Because of the devotion of the devotees, too, Krishna reveals himself. And so it's hard not to love Krishna. That's very hard, unless you happen to be Shishupal or Dantavakra or Kamsa. Who else is there? A lot of other nice people like that. Hiranyakashipu or Hiranyaksha. Got any other clients? Ravana. No, Kumbhakarna liked Krishna. He was just following his brother. He actually knew more. He knew he was doing the wrong thing, but, you know, he's following Vedic culture. Listen to your brother. Your elder brother. Krishna doesn't always follow Vedic culture. He didn't listen to his elder brother all the time. He just did the right thing. So, I think we should end now, right? Thank you very much. All glories to His Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Haribol. Here's the...
Hare Krishna. So please be seated, couple of minutes before we proceed downstairs. So first of all, let's thank His Holiness bkgoswami Goswami Maharaj for the wonderful class on the pastime of Visvamitra Muni, and then taking that to the point of how we can actually overcome lust, the point of determination, and ending with such a beautiful note. So let's thank His Holiness bkgoswami Goswami Maharaj. Maharaj also in his class mentioned the story of Trishanku, right? So that story is actually from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have this campaign which is like a global campaign. Maharaj emphasized the importance of getting and distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. So this story is actually from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is actually a complete set of books, and it's actually considered as the essence of all the Vedas, the Puranas, the Upanishads, everything. The essence of everything is the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is established by Vyasadeva himself. So all around the world, we are encouraging everyone to take a set of Srimad Bhagavatam, especially for your children. Let every child have their own set of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is so important that everyone should have a set. And also we are encouraging anywhere in US, we are shipping Srimad Bhagavatam sets. We have it in multiple languages, English, Hindi, Gujarati, Tamil, Telugu, whatever language you want, we have the sets available. So today is a nice auspicious, as I mentioned, is a month of Purushottam, Adhik Mas. Please take a set for yourself. If you already have one, you can actually take a set, give it as a gift to your friends, to your families, or to your relatives in US, or to your family in India. We also have this campaign where we are shipping Bhagavatam books to your family, maybe your parents in India. You want to give them a gift, or to your village. We are actually putting Bhagavatams in different villages in India. So everywhere we want to spread Bhagavatam. Prabhupada says, this is the torch light in this age of Kali Yuga, in this age of darkness. Bhagavatam is going to give light to everyone. Right? That's the famous shloka where it says, Krishne swadhamo pagate dharma jnana bhisa kalo nashta drishamesha punanarko dhunodita. That in this age of Kali Yuga, it says when Krishna appeared 5,000 years before, and then when he departed after finishing his pastime, then